Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Carr and I am part of Group 2 and we will be discussing Carl Weick's article over the Man Gulch disaster. I will be going over the slides that involve the summary and organizational lessons. So I just want to start off with a quick overview of Weick's article and the Man Gulch disaster and how it connects to organizations. So from Weick's article, he uses Norman MacLean's award-winning book, Young Man and Fire. His intentions are to expose any gaps in our current organizations and our understandings of organizations. He uses this illustration on how organizational problems can be generated and what provides direction on how they can be avoided. So the Man Gulch disaster came about through a fire that was started by a lightning storm on August 4th, 1949. Smoke jumpers arrived at the scene with the idea that they could isolate the fire. These jumpers had no previous experience with each other and therefore did not know who was in command. Once on the ground, defeating the fire did not look so promising. So the firefighters were led to revert to self-instincts and basically run away. So because of the lack of preparation and leadership, 13 men lost their lives. So how does this connect to organizations? Weick explains this in his article and shows how the Man Gulch disaster reflects organizational tendencies. So in this presentation, we'll be going over first organizational lessons that can be learned and the cost to communicate, lead, and use systems thinking to overcome problems. These problems that were presented in this article were a majority of lack of leadership, communication, and preparation and training. The next point we will be going through is the context of the article and how it offers a different view of illusions, specifically positive illusions, and how thinking beyond what we already know. The last point that we will be covering is how organizations should apply these lessons to achieve efficient diagnosis and problem-solving tactics. As we move into organizational lessons, it is clear to see that there are many lessons to be learned through this article and the Man Gulch disaster. So to go into the overall look of Weick's intentions, it is clear to see that he would like to show how organizations can avoid danger and prevent disaster. One of those first results is from miscommunication. So when there's little to no communication among the firefighters, it caused the chain of command to be skewed and to be unknown. So they didn't know who to follow, who to go to, who to listen to. This led to quite a bit of chaos. That leads me into the second point, which involves team building and the lack of preparation and training that went into this specific instance, and that can go into organizations and the organization culture. So these things that Weick are suggesting is that it can be compared to the Man Gulch disaster and how organizations can learn from this disaster and this group of men that lacked these areas of team building, preparation, and training. This leads me into a form of leadership and how important leadership is, and this is probably the biggest takeaway from this article, in that leadership needs to surround trust, honesty, and self-respect. So in organizational crisis specifically, in order to be effective, all members need to listen to leadership and not forget or lose their meaning. In order to be an effective leader on the leadership side, one needs to lead from a place of humility and knowing it is okay not to know it all. Leaders who are great know how to take a step back, understand the problem, identify the root, and brainstorm potential solutions. These areas are definitely can be submerged throughout organizations and be created in the thinking, and that leads me to systems thinking. So systems thinking can definitely be a part of this article and the story that it brings through an evaluation of the problem and analyzing how you can find a solution is super important throughout any organization. And we can see through the Man Gulch disaster that because they didn't prepare and they didn't evaluate the scenario closely, this led them into failure and chaos and ultimately death for some of them. So the last point to take in is to re-examine the organization, your organization, and how group dynamic, structure, temporary system, and team building all fall into the structure of being successful in analyzing problems to find those solutions for success.